Point Park baseball takes swings in Butler. The Riverhounds began their season, and a disastrous MLB debut leaves fans speechless. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm Gabe Ebersole, back for another week of sports news. We have all the latest Point Park and Pittsburgh news for you while the MLB begins its regular season. To start, let's send it over to Edmi Idalis with updates on Point Park lacrosse.
Women's lacrosse continued with conference play this past weekend as they went up against West Virginia Wesleyan and Davis and Elkins. On Thursday, Point Park maintained a major lead against Wesleyan. Going into the second quarter, the Pioneers were at 12 and Wesleyan still at 0. The Pioneers had gained too high a lead and the Bobcats were unable to bring themselves back. The Pioneers won by a large margin against Wesleyan with 21 to the Pioneers and only 4 to the Bobcats. Sunday brought Point Park its first game to go into overtime. Up against Davis and Elkins, the Pioneers kept a steady pace with the Senators and ended the fourth quarter with both teams tied with 13. They went into overtime fighting for the win and came up short, with Davis and Elkins getting that shot. The game ended with a score of 14-13 to the Senators. A common Pioneer leader in these games was Andrea Kinger. Freshman Kinger was named MEC Player of the Week for the second time. Kinger leads the MEC in goals per game with 3.83 and points per game with 5.5. Next for the Pioneers, they will be up against MEC opponent Charleston on Wednesday at home and MEC opponent Frostburg State on Saturday in Maryland. Good luck, Pioneers. Now to Ryan Quinn for the latest on Pioneer baseball. Ryan.
Last Sunday, the Pioneers took a trip up to Butler, Pennsylvania at Pullman Park for their doubleheader against West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. Splitting their last 4 of their doubleheaders against MEC opponents, Point Park was looking to finally get their second sweep on the season. The first game gave the Pioneers exactly what they were looking for. Bottom of the second gave the Pioneers 1 run from a loaded bases hit by pitch, then a 2 RBI single by Felix Gonzalez gave the Pioneers a lead they would never look back from. Another RBI triple from Felix Rodriguez in the fourth after the Yellow Jackets got 1 run in response was the cushion needed for their first win of the day. Standout pitching from starter Camden Dimigen with 6 innings and 8 strikeouts was instrumental in the 4-3 victory. But as the second game started, it was a bit of a different story. Once again, the Pioneers were able to get a 3-1 lead in the bottom of the second thanks to an error from West Virginia State and a pair of RBI doubles from Felix Gonzalez and Chris Williams. However, in the top of the fourth, the Yellow Jackets stung back. A 3 RBI double from Aiden Youngblood took the lead back to Virginia. Now bottom of the sticks comes around, the Pioneers are looking to take back the lead. Thankfully, it starts with a Carlos de la Vega RBI, then the MVP of the day, Felix Gonzalez, hits another RBI double, and Harold Boyce shuts the door in the top of the 7th, sealing the victory and the sweep for Point Park. They now look to the weekend where they have a pair of doubleheaders at home against the team they beat for the MEC championship last year, the Fairmount State Falcons. Back to you at the desk, Gabe.
The Pioneers track team made their way across town to compete at the Carnegie Mellon Invitational over the weekend. On the women's side, senior Jana Schmid snagged the 6th place finish in the 1500 meter, 4 minutes and 45 seconds the time. Schmid slid in the 800 meter as well, 2:20 taking 8th place. Teammate Aubrey Smith grabbed 3rd in that same 800 meter heat. Her 2:17.7 marks the meet's fastest freshman by 7 seconds. Moving off the track and onto the runway, the MEC's reigning Field Athlete of the Year, Dunya van den Toren, flies for 4th place with a 5.17 meter long jump. Also taking 4th place, we're moving to the men's side. It's sophomore Chase Bowen. He brings out a sub 4 minutes in the 1500 meter, but he one-ups himself in the 800. Bowen cracks the top 3 there, going 155 flat in the half-mile run. Both hurdles held points for the Pioneers. Freshman C.A. Froneman filled 5th place in the 400 hurdles with a 57 flat. Gavin Glass held down the 100 hurdles. 15.29 seconds sticks the junior in 7th place. Moving to the field, a Pioneer pair of bends scored in the jab. Freshman Ben Williams goes bronze, 53.13 meters, marking third. Junior Ben Blahovic, not so far behind him at 51.84, good for seventh. Point Park parades their way to Slippery Rock this weekend for their next competition. Now, that's all for Point Park sports, but we have a whole lot more in the week ahead. Point Park men's lacrosse takes on Wheeling on the road tomorrow. Simultaneously, women's lacrosse competes at home versus Charleston. Track and field takes a trip to Slippery Rock for the Dave Labor Invitational, and baseball looks to continue its winning streak versus Fairmont State at home. Tune in for more Pioneer updates right here next week, and as always, go Pioneers! After the break, local news that you don't want to miss. We will be right back. Welcome back. Now, Nico Rich has a story on what happened in a recent matchup between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Dallas Stars. Nico?
On March 28th, hockey fans packed into PPG Paints Arena as the Pittsburgh Penguins faced off against the Dallas Stars in a high-energy matchup that delivered plenty of offense on both sides. For this game, the Penguins are fighting to secure a playoff spot in the final stretch of the season, while the Stars aim to solidify their position while already having clinched a spot in the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs. The game opened at a fast pace with both teams generating early scoring chances and setting a physical tone. The Penguins then took control in front of their own home crowd, scoring first when Anthony Mantha found the back of the net on a power play at 2 minutes and 12 seconds of the first period. However, the Dallas Stars responded early in the second period, with Justin Rickohian tied the game at 1-1 just over 2 minutes into the frame. The Penguins quickly answered as Erik Karlsson scored to put Pittsburgh back in front, making the score 2-1. The Dallas Stars then responded with 3 consecutive goals within a 4-minute and 26-second time span to take the lead, with goals coming from Jason Robertson, Mikko Rantanen, and Lian Bichsel, pushing Dallas ahead 4-2. With the Penguins trailing late and looking to tie the game, they pulled their goaltender in the final minutes to add an extra attacker, creating an offensive advantage while leaving their net empty. The Dallas Stars took advantage of the empty net as Maverick Bourque scored twice to seal the game. The Dallas Stars ultimately defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins by a final score of 6-3. In a game filled with momentum, swings, and high intensity, it was the Dallas Stars who came out on top, leaving the Penguins to regroup as they continue their playoff push. I'm Nico Rich, reporting for Pioneer Sideline, and I'll see you next time with another report.
In Pittsburgh sports, Becca Trulich is in the studio with details on the start of the Riverhounds season. Becca?
This past weekend, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds greeted their fans at their first home match of the season with a 5-goal thriller as the Riverhounds won against United Soccer League newcomers Sporting Club Jacksonville 3-2. The night began with unveiling the team's championship banner, celebrating the club's first ever USL title in 2025. The Hounds made it on the board early in the first half, with the first goal being scored just in the first 7 minutes. Beto Erderak chipped a ball into the box as shouts for a penalty came from the crowd, with Charles All being knocked over by his defender. Albert Dequa hurdled All's legs to be the first on the loose ball and sent the ball straight to the top right corner. The Hounds' lead doubled in the 27th minute after Sam Bassett intercepted a Jacksonville pass and carried the ball and scored with a right-footed curler. The score was 2-0 going into halftime. At the 50th minute during the second half, Dequa took a penalty kick and scored after Dita Armstrong was called for handling the ball. Jordan Rossiter from Jacksonville got them on the board when he shot from the top of the box through traffic, sending it to the opposite direction of goalkeeper Nico Campazzuno. The Hounds play again tonight as they host Virginia Dream Football Club in the U.S. Club Open. Back to you at the desk, Gabe.
Next, more of what's happening in the sports world. Stay tuned.
It's a tough crowd.
Welcome back. Now, Ethan Van Dusen reports on a shocking start to the MLB opening weekend.
The wait for this highly anticipated MLB season has concluded. The Giants and Yankees kicked off the 2026 campaign last Wednesday, and ever since that point, we've seen nothing but chaos. Throughout the first 3 to 4 games of this season, we've seen a walk-off grand slam hit by Dominic Smith of the Braves and 3 very gutsy wins from the defending AL champs and NL champs. Although there have been a lot of highs to start the season, the Toronto Blue Jays took a massive blow as former Pirates pitcher and current Blue Jays pitcher Cody Ponce suffered a knee injury. Ponce was trying to field a ground ball and throw out a runner at first when he felt a pop in his knee. Blue Jays manager John Schneider quoted, "After the game, he felt like it hyperextended a little bit. That's what he told me on the field," end quote. Ponce is coming off of a 3-year, $30 million signing, which is the largest contract ever for a domestic pitcher returning from the KBO to the MLB. Ponce was awarded MVP of the Triple Crown in the KBO last season after he recorded a record of 17-1, an ERA of 1.89, and a league record of 252 strikeouts. Ponce backed up his play in spring training with his incredible performance, logging an ERA of 0.66 in 13.2 innings. Unfortunately for the AL champs, this isn't the first injury to their rotation, as Shane Bieber and Treyu Savage were placed on the 15-day IL to begin the season. Nonetheless, the MLB season is underway. Let's play some ball. Now for some of the first week of the MLB, I am joined by Nick Schermito to give some thoughts of the best and worst contenders for this season. Nick, thank you for joining me today. Obviously, I think we can both agree that the Dodgers are probably the overwhelming favorite going into this MLB season, but I kind of want to pinpoint the AL East. I think there's a lot of good contenders. I think that division is absolutely stacked. Who is your favorite coming out of that division?
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned them, but I probably would say the Blue Jays and the Yankees. I mean, both are still, very, very good teams. Both have great pitching. They have great offense, too. They have, obviously, the Yankees have Aaron Judge and company, while the Blue Jays, I really liked what they did in the offseason. I thought they made a lot of great moves, bolstering the lineup. I know, obviously, like you mentioned, the injuries to start the season is tough, but your Savage and Bieber, they're only on the 15-day IL, and it's still a long, long season, so they'll be fine, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it's very intriguing for me because the Red Sox, they were obviously in the playoffs last year. Disappointing loss to the Yankees. And the Yankees, a team for me, like they have one of the best pitching staffs in the league.
Yeah.
I feel like they're 1 or 2 batters away from becoming somewhat competent to win win a championship. But let's go into a sleeper pick. For me, I like the Diamondbacks finishing second in the NL West solely because of their pitching staff. I think they're a lot better this year with Rodriguez, and Corbin Burns is coming back in late July. And their lineup, you got Nolan Arenado now, you got Corbin Carroll, you got Marte, right? You got Perdomo. There's so many options in this lineup. I think they're going to be good. If there is a sleeper pick that you think is going to be in this MLB season, who would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I might get laughed at for this, but I don't care. I'm going to go with the Buccos. I mean, I think the moves that they did this offseason was very good. You look at how good Lau and O'Hearn specifically have been to start the season. I think they've combined for counting the game that's on right now. I think 5 home runs this year already, and they've just been playing fantastic. And I think if you can get the rest of the lineup to play that good offensively, you're going to have it amazing offensively. And I mean, the pitching, it speaks for itself. You got Skeens, you got Bubba Chandler, you got Mitch Keller, like, you got dogs for pitching. Pitching's not been the problem, obviously. It's been the offense. And I think now that you've gotten the offense, and not even to count, I think at some point you're going to bring Connor Griffin up, especially if the offense is struggling. There's a guy that you can bring up to get your offense rolling. So it's a good problem to have. Yeah. I think once, the Pirates get their offense going, like they are literally right now as we're talking, they're up 5-0 against the Reds. I think with that, once they get their offense rolling, I think there's a dangerous team that you can't take lightly. And I think they could go on maybe like the Diamondbacks a few years ago, or like maybe even the Blue Jays last year, that type of run. Surprise people.
Yeah, interesting take there. Obviously, Phillies team that we both agree will underperform, but let's see how the MLB season plays out. Now to Connor Howard on an update on the United Football League. Connor?
Spring football is back. The United Football League kicked off this weekend for its second season with 4 games. This marked the start of a 10-week regular season for the 8 teams. The season opener between the Birmingham Stallions and the Louisville Kings was a tight defensive battle between both teams. Birmingham would edge out the brand new franchise of Louisville as they set the tone with a late game win of 15-13. The St. Louis Battlehawks would defeat the defending champion DC Defenders at home with a strong defensive effort to hold DC to just 10 points. The Dallas Renegades gave the most dominating performance of Week 1 as they pulled away with a high-powered offense and balanced attack led by quarterback Austin Reed, who completed 26 of his 40 passes for 376 yards, setting a new UFL regular season record with 3 touchdown passes and no interceptions for the 36-17 victory over the Houston Gamblers. The Orlando Storm closed out Week 1 of the season with a solid win as they capitalized on key plays late to secure the 23-16 victory over the Columbus Aviators. Week 1 of the season gave fans a mix of defensive battles and offensive explosiveness heading into Week 2 of the season. Now to Marcus Betts for more on this year's NFL Draft here in Pittsburgh.
The Steelers have the 21st pick in the draft, but here's the twist. Pittsburgh is hosting the draft this year. But there is one problem. The host city does not have a game plan at quarterback, and this makes them a wild card scenario. They have 12 picks in total, but they don't know who their QB is going to be. Aaron Rodgers is an option, but he's asking for over $30 million, and that's not how the Pittsburgh Steelers usually do business. You'd think they'd draft a young quarterback, right? This year's class is weak. No Arch Manning, no standout talent except Fernando Mendoza. The Steelers have made other moves. Coach Tomlin left after 19 seasons. Then they added offensive threats like Michael Pittman and Rico Dowdle. And on the defensive end, safety Jaquan Brisker, a Pittsburgh native. But none of that solves quarterback. Some analysts even say tanking might be the smart play, and that the Steelers have never done that before. So, with the draft in their own city and no QB plan, and more questions than answers, Pittsburgh is officially the wild card of night one. That's all from me and for the rest of the crew. Back to you at the desk, Gabe.
And that is all for your news this evening. After the break, we discuss the Pittsburgh Penguins and their true potential. You don't want to miss it.
Three, two, one. Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. The Pittsburgh Penguins are likely to play in this year's NHL playoffs, with their first matchup still being in the air. The Penguins' full potential is also still in the air. I'm joined by Ryan, Jones, Ethan, and Nick to debate the ceiling of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So we'll start off with you over here, Ryan. Penguins obviously have a long streak of making the playoffs for 17 years, and then that dwindles down, and for 3 straight years, they don't make the postseason. This year, that might change, but what is their ceiling? We know their floor.
Yeah, so the ceiling is, I'd say, second in the Metro, right? I say at the end of this year, when we get to it, it's going to be second in the Metro. We're not going to have enough time to catch up to the Canes. The Canes have quite an easy schedule going to the end of the year. So I think the Penguins, with how they're playing so far, playing well, obviously yesterday and starting off 2-0 as we speak, they're starting to get the momentum back as well as starting to get healthy. So I think that they're going to boost above both the Islanders and Columbus and maintain that second spot in the Metro. So obviously playing the third seed, whoever that might be, getting home ice advantage.
I like what you're thinking. Ethan, what you got?
Yeah, I like the second in the Metro. I think they can get past the first round. I think they can beat a team in the Islanders and Columbus. But for me, the second round is the ceiling for them in the playoffs. I just don't see them getting past a Canes team, especially with goaltending. That's my biggest concern for the Penguins overall. You look at Stuart Skinner, who's probably going to start in the playoffs. He has a 26-22 overall record in the playoffs. He gives up just shy of 3 goals per game in the playoffs, and he's been benched 6 times so far in 3 playoff appearances. If you're going to make it far, especially beat a Canes team and maybe even a Lightning team later into the playoffs, you have to have good goaltending. I don't think the Penguins have that.
Understandable. Nick, what are you thinking over there?
Yeah, I think Ethan, I think that last sentence you just said is not correct. Stuart Skinner, I mean, this is the guy who just went to back-to-back Stanley Cups. He was a big part. He made crucial saves. He's been making crucial saves since he's came to Pittsburgh and has played very well. I think the change of scenery benefited him a ton. And you have Arthur Shelovs, who has more, well, at the beginning, before this season started, had more playoff experience than regular season experience. So he's a guy who also knows how to play in the playoffs. He's played in big games in the playoffs when Thatcher Demko was hurt for the Canucks. So that 1-2 punch of 2 goalies who has great playoff experience, that's going to get you far in the playoffs, as it does with every team who goes far in the playoffs. They say it every year, how big goaltending is. And I think with the Penguins' goaltending, I think they can go conference finals.
Yeah, the goaltending's fine, and obviously we know that the forward and defensive aspect is not an issue. We saw them the last time they made the playoffs in 22 against the Rangers. We're sitting with an injured Tristan Jarry, an injured Casey DeSmith, and Louis Domingue, who's been sitting on the bench eating spicy pork and broccoli. And now he comes in and takes them to 7. And you know, he's not even a minor leaguer, so you don't even have to worry about that. And now we have a goalie who went to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. Exactly like you said, he needs a little bit of scenery, and so far he has proven to be one of the best goalies in the entire league.
Okay, and that's what I was going to ask you. So you do put that cap as second in the Metro on the Penguins. So what is putting that ceiling on them for you if it's not Stuart Skinner in the goaltending?
What do you
from this
mean?
team? So you said second in the Metro for your ceiling for this team. What is the part of this team that you see as their limitation why they can't go beyond the Eastern Conference Finals? Something to
Well,
that
no,
result?
I say that going into the playoffs, the cap is being second in the Metro. Now, that doesn't extend anything going into the playoffs.
So what do you think? So for the playoffs, then we'll ask that.
I think it's a guaranteed third round and higher. Now, here is why. You're going to go against either Columbus or you're going to go against the Islanders. We've proven to beat Columbus and the Islanders quite easily in the last few years, especially this year. We have won both season series. Now, when you go against in the second round, if you go up to, let's say, a Hurricanes aspect, we're 0-4 against the Hurricanes this year. Now, here's where it comes into play. 5 of our best 10 players have been injured in all of 4 of those games. 2 of them went into 3-on-3 overtime, and guess what's not in the playoffs? 3-on-3 overtime. You have the second best team in 5-on-5 in the entire NHL, so this is going to be a completely different aspect going into this. So I say that you make it to the third round because you are going to beat that Carolina team after you either beat New York or Columbus. So you are going to make it to that third round team and probably play in either Buffalo or New York or, a Tampa situation. And then it just sky's the limit from there.
Very valid points. Got me believing. Ethan, what are you thinking over here?
Yeah, they're not beating Carolina. There's no chance.
Why?
Why? We talked
Tell
about,
me.
you haven't experienced playoff Skinner. And here's the thing, you talk about the experience with Sid and all of them. Carolina's been in the playoffs the last, 3 to 4 years? And here's the thing.
And what have they done?
Their kryptonite is not in the playoffs. So if there is a chance for them to make a run and potentially...
What do you mean the kryptonite's
Nick,
not?
I'm sorry, but
kryptonite as in the Florida Panthers. So if the Florida Panthers are out, this is their chance. They're going to be dialed in. You're not going to Carolina and beating them when they have home ice. No way. You can get past Columbus and the Islanders, in my opinion. The ceiling's the second round. I like Carolina. I think this is their year to make a run. And on the other side of the bracket, I like Tampa Bay a lot. I think this is also their year to make a run and get back at what they've missed the past couple of years.
I don't really think the kryptonite's the Florida Panthers when
No.
you go 0-4
for
3
Carolina?
years. Yeah, when
No,
you go
it's
0-4
not.
3 years consecutively in the third round.
Also,
it doesn't matter how you do. If you
Florida's
go into the
beaten
third,
Carolina 2 out of the last 3 years.
yeah, but if you
Yes,
go into
but
3 years in the
also-
kryptonite.
go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, the team that they're lined up to play right now is Boston. That is a team that has also historically owned Carolina in the playoffs. So
Also
if
a
they're
team that
matching
was
up...
also a team that was supposed to tank, and they've had a very, very surprising season. All of their
Yes,
players. That
so why can't they
overperformed.
surprise again and beat Carolina?
And not only that, but why can't they beat Carolina? Why can't we beat Carolina? It doesn't
That
make any
too.
I don't
sense.
think either of you can beat Carolina.
It doesn't make any sense. Carolina seems shaky in the second and third round of the playoffs.
Like
we
they
have to
always
remember,
are.
they can't play
Against
well in the
Florida.
third round of the playoffs, but you're going against a Capitals team with an extremely old roster in previous seasons, and they take those teams to 7. You have an even better Penguins team in the second round, which will be in the second round of this year, so you cannot count out this Penguins team.
Yeah, you
the
can't.
Capitals also a few years back went
When was the
0-4
last
in the
time we
regular
saw the
season.
Penguins in the playoffs again?
2022.
So
And
why
they
are
played-
we comparing what we saw in 2022 to 2026?
We're comparing
why
what
are
we
you
saw in
comparing-
2022 to 2026
We're in
because
2026
the roster
now.
in 2026
We haven't seen the
was
Penguins in the
No,
playoffs
Ethan,
in
that's not how
3
I'm saying
years.
about.
No,
I'm
if
talking
you're
about a
gonna-
Capitals
and we're
roster.
talking
Hold on,
about-
Nick. I'm
All
talking
right,
about
let's
Yeah,
go
you
right
get
on
this,
time
you get
here. Let's
this.
start with Ryan Jones. We'll make a point, and then Ethan's going to counter to it. We'll start with that. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm talking about a Capitals roster
Okay.
a few years ago. The Capitals roster a few years ago was not good. It's not like it was a President's winning roster. It's not
no.
like they just came off of the Stanley Cup final because they didn't. That was many years prior.
Okay.
So you're looking at a Capitals team who took the Hurricanes to 7, who could not play well. Ovi was playing shaky. Both of those years they went in the second round. Not only that, but you had issues with Backstrom. They had issues with goaltending. Now, you're telling me that they're going to take them to 7, they're going to do completely fine, and we're not on a team that has been historically better when it comes to playoff success? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, you look at historically, when we look at playoff success, you haven't been successful since 2017. We're in 2026, 9 years later. I don't think we can reference the 2017 season to 2026. That doesn't make sense at all to me. And the thing is, for the Canes, I literally talked about it, this is their chance. This has to be the year because Florida's going to be back and ready next year. The Sabres are going to be even better next year. They know it. It has to be the year for them. And I think for Tampa on the other side, too. The Penguins, let's look at the Penguins. I'm not saying, oh, they're going to have such a disappointing end of the season because they didn't make it to the conference finals. Their ceiling should be the second round. Let's go back to October when we looked at them and we saw them as a non-playoff team. We saw their offseason. They didn't really get anyone big. No one expected them to be in the playoffs. So the fact that we're saying their ceiling is the second round is a great thing for the Penguins, especially with an older team.
I don't know about you, but Nick and I stood here in September, and we said that we were
guys
the
are
only
Penguins
people on
fans. The
sidelines.
majority of the NHL is
Yeah, but
not-
I think I'm
did not
smart enough
expect
to,
the
if the
Penguins
Penguins
to make
did
the
suck, I
playoffs.
could say that they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
Penguins
even
fans.
me.
All right, well, the good thing is we'll eventually be able to figure this out when they do make the playoffs. But that's all the time that we do have for this week. Make sure that you join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer sideline.
Go Pens.